Welcome to another episode of Real Estate Unfiltered with Bridget
and Angie.
And today we're talking about delays. Why is it delayed and what does it mean? So
Yeah.
if you're a buyer or seller that has recently gone through this or you're about to, this episode is for you.
Yeah, because it's not always sunshine and roses, unfortunately. You know, there are things that happen and it can cause delays, and it's just a matter of whether or not you can control that is the biggest thing to understand. And I know we've talked about it in like episodes past, but the strongest component you can have is communication.
Oh, absolutely. It is communication. And, you know, one thing that I've run into lately is when I've had the buyer and stuff gets delayed, it's the seller thinks my buyer is playing games or jerking them around or, you know, whatever. And that's not the case. And
yeah. So it's important to understand that there's a lot of moving parts in a transaction, and a lot of them are things that buyers and sellers don't see. Correct. You know, so it's things that I, as a lender, you as I see, or you as a buyer or listing agent would see, even the title company, like, and there's people behind us. Like I have a processor, I have an underwriter, you know, I have a closer. We have all these people, and as a lender too, we are controlled a lot by compliance, and compliance is created for reasons to protect the buyer. You know, so it's not like these compliance things are made just to make everybody's job harder. Like I can't change guidelines and compliance. Like they're there for a reason, and more often than not, I mean, I shouldn't say that, they are there to protect the buyer. You know, like we don't have compliance things for sellers, but I'm sure they have their own things that they have to abide by. I said, but ours are more to protect the buyer. So that they're inconvenient when they cause things to be delayed, but they're there for a reason.
Right.
You know, and I can't make them go away. I can't be like, oh, we'll just wave our wand and make it go away. But I think it's important to understand that there can be delays, and sometimes you don't close on time, or sometimes you can close on time, but there's a lot of stress, you know, involved in it. And it's usually like getting closer to the end when deadlines are coming due and things aren't coming in. You know, like everything. So in the very beginning, the buyer feels stressed because it's me saying, hey, I need all of these things from you. You know, I need your tax returns, I need your pay stubs, W-2s, bank statements, 401, I need all these things. You know, then they're already overwhelmed with all of the emails for sign your disclosures, get me your documents, order your appraisal, do your home. So there's like a lot in the beginning, and then the middle is kind of just like meh. You know,
right?
They don't see much going on. You know, and then it comes close to the closing and things aren't in yet, and they're like, oh crap. You know, so then everything's a scramble again. So there's a lot of highs and lows.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Everybody, you know, the listing agent, the seller's agent, the title company, the lender, you know, everybody each has their own responsibilities. And we don't always see each other's responsibilities.
Right.
You know, so it's easy to go down the rabbit hole of, well, you're delaying this because.
Yeah, or it's your fault because.
Right.
Yeah.
But they really don't know the true thing behind it, you know. And what I often try to do is when, let's say I've got the listing and the buyer needs to push closing back. Obviously that's upsetting for me as well as the seller.
Right. Nobody likes that phone call.
No, nobody does. But it happens. Stuff happens. And I try to put myself in the buyer and the buyer's agent shoes. Like, hey, I've been there before. I've been through it. So I get it. And then I try to take that past experience and talk to my seller about it.
Right.
So we just all as a whole, buyers, sellers, agents, lenders, title companies, you know, we all have to look back on past experiences and realize there's usually a valid reason why.
Yeah, we're not delaying because they wanted to go on vacation instead.
Correct.
You know, it's not something silly like that. So there's usually delays behind it. So I think it's important that we talk about what some of those delays could be. Yes. One of the biggest ones that I see is appraisal delays.
Yes.
You know, we had just done an episode talking about appraisal, but it's important to understand that there are regulations and compliances intact where I cannot personally call an appraiser. I can't make them do
As the
something.
lender, yep.
Correct. They don't even give me their information. Like we have our own appraisal team. They do all the things, and then we just communicate through email. I don't have anybody's phone number. I don't have control over any of that. But that can cause delays if the appraiser, one, can't get into the property. I mean, we've had it before too. They can't get it scheduled.
Yes.
Or two, where the appraiser just takes forever to get into the property, or they undervalue the property, or they come in saying you need to fix X, Y, Z. We can't overrule what the appraiser says. Right. Like we can't. I've had it happen once, and I think it may have been with you, where the appraiser came back and said that we had to fix chipping and peeling paint on a property that was conventional, and my underwriter said absolutely not.
Yes.
Yeah. So for that kind of thing, she's like, that's not a conventional loan. That's an FHA. This is a conventional purchase. We're not doing that. But more often than not, what the appraiser says, we have to follow. We don't have the ability to be like, yeah, we're not doing that.
Right. And, same. And that's kind of the same as where, you as the lender, you don't have any contact information for the appraiser. You have no control over it. And then that goes the same for me as the buyer's agent, as well as the buyer, that they don't have that contact information. And that's for obvious reasons as well.
Correct. Again, regulation.
Correct. So we're not allowed to have that information, but the listing agent does, because the appraiser either contacts the listing agent to set up the appointment, or they go through, showing time or aligned showings to schedule that appointment, and you've got that information, so as agents, I know that if, I have questions about certain things, on the listing side, I have reached out to the appraiser just to ask questions, because you don't want to make them mad because
right. I mean, it'd be illegal for them to compromise your report, but at the same time, we don't want to make them mad because they hold the reins when it comes to that.
Correct.
And do I agree with it? Absolutely not. I mean, it's very like crushing when you have like you're literally like your hands are tied. You can't do anything, So and that, I want to say, more often than not, causes a delay.
Oh, absolutely.
And then let's say their appraisal report comes in, a day or two before closing. We can't close out it, obviously, if we ordered it. But then the buyer has a legal right to receive a copy of that report 3 days prior to closing, 3 business days prior to closing. They do count Saturday as business days, so Sunday's only day that's not counted, or a holiday. But 3 business days prior to closing, that is their right. And they don't they have an option to waive that right if they're like, okay, it's fine. I'll still get a copy of the report. Everything is fine, but they don't have to. And if they choose not to waive that right, and the appraisal report comes in 2 days before closing, guess what? We can't close legally.
Right, because let's say you get loan commitment today, you still need to wait 3 days.
The clock is ticking
to get clear to close. So if you get loan commitment today, which is Thursday, you're not closing till Monday. So because you need, once a seller gets loan commitment from the buyer, that's great. It means, we're good to go, but you still need to wait on clear to close and what happens in those 3 days.
Right. So it's important to know that, I mean, that could cause a delay. Is it ideal? Absolutely not. And it's not. But again, we can't control it, and we're at the mercy of them. And it's something that I hope that they're working on, because it's a very stressful process. But that's one key one that I see. Another one, and you just had this happen with one of yours, is title.
Yes, title issues. Things get found on title. And that causes a delay. So there's title issues that pop up. I try to get ahead of that. But sometimes stuff doesn't pop up till later down the road, as the title company is doing more digging and more research on things. Then something does pop up and we have to push closing because of that, or the buyer or the seller need to take care of judgments, liens, or anything that
they had no idea they even had it against them.
Correct. Exactly.
And that happens. I mean, I don't say it happens a lot, but it's more common than
Yes, because there's been times that I've had a seller and stuff popped up think it was a week or two before closing, and the seller had to get it taken care of before we could close. So we did have to push it out.
Yeah. Yep. And again, that's not in anybody's control. Like, you can't control that. We do have somebody from title come into the podcast in the future, kind of go over like what title is, what they're looking for, so you can kind of give an idea of why this could be a big deal, if anything shows up on it. But essentially, title just shows, any liens on the property that's being sold. Yep. And then anything that is liened against a borrower, if they own a current home, that they owe money on. I've seen ones where it comes up with how they have back child support.
Yes, I've seen that a lot.
And they had no idea, or they did, they just assumed it would go away, But sometimes judgments and liens show up through a title search, but not on your credit report. So
Correct.
Not everything shows up on credit. So we as a lender don't know that those things are there until these judgments show up and say, hey, your borrower has, 20 grand in past due child support.
Yep.
Or if you're selling a property and you have all of these judgments out against you, they lien your property for a reason, because you legally cannot sell your property until you pay them off.
Correct.
And that could delay or even cancel it. Honestly, if you don't have the money to take care of it, your hands are tied. And that person also cannot refinance their house. They can't do anything until those liens are satisfied.
Correct. Oh, exactly.
Yep. So title could cause big issues as well.
Yep. Another one that causes delays is inspections, negotiations.
Oh, home inspections. Yeah.
Yes. Home inspections can cause delays. Obviously, within the offer, you've got so many days, to get the inspection done and to do agreed upon time frame to get it done. I feel like I just said the same thing twice.
It's been a month.
Yeah, it has been a month. Anyways, so in the offer, you have so many days to get the inspection done and to get the changes you want made within a certain time period. Now, if you're reaching out to contractors to get quotes, estimates, sometimes they can't work within that little box. So then we have to push out the inspection deadline contingency. So that gets bumped back. Okay. Now, once that finally gets rectified, usually if a seller has to take care of something, it needs to get taken care of before closing.
Unless it's major,
correct.
But yeah.
It's got to get taken care of before closing. And now you have to make sure that that company can come out and do it within that time period. And then, at least supply paid receipts and lien waivers 3 days prior to closing. So there's that 3 days again.
The magic number is 3. I can tell you that right now. The magic number is 3 business days. Just keep that in mind. 3 business days. For any compliance things.
So yeah, and if that all gets pushed out, well, then that could eventually affect the appraisal. That could affect loan commitment, all of that. So it continues to get pushed back, and then closing.
Because more often than not, a buyer will not order appraisal until home inspection is complete. Because I don't know how all companies work, but for our appraisers, they will not schedule until they're paid. Because sometimes an appraisal could kill a deal. It comes in under value, comes in all these issues, whatever, where it doesn't go through. If that happens, the appraiser still needs to get paid for what they did. So they still did a service. They still need to get paid for what they did. If you don't pay them up front, then they just lost however much money by doing the work. So more often than not, the appraisal fee is paid up front. So a buyer is not going to go ahead and spend $500, $600, whatever it is, for the appraisal if they're not even sure if the home's going to pass home inspection.
Correct.
And if you're still in negotiations with the seller, who is to say that you're going to come to an agreement?
Right.
Exactly. There's no guarantee that agreement. So then the buyer is in like a holding pattern to order the appraisal, and that can push back all of the deadlines because we can't give loan commitment until the appraisal is in. So it's like a snowball effect. That can happen depending on how long the negotiation process takes.
Oh, absolutely. Counter offers get sent back and forth. Those sometimes can take days to get worked out and agreed upon. So it is all, a delay doesn't mean the deal is dead.
Correct.
And that's what is most important to remember. When there's a delay in a deadline, a closing date, whatever, try not to panic. I know it's added stress because
Mm-hmm.
the buyer may have something going, the seller may be buying another property.
There's usually a lot riding on the
it,
whole entire thing.
exactly. We're all in this together, and that's the most important thing. If you're a seller, talk to your listing agent and say, why is there a delay? What's going on? What kind of feeling are you getting from the other side? Are they wanting to walk, or is this just a legitimate delay?
Mm-hmm.
And same goes for the buyer. If there's a delay on the seller's end, talk to your buyer's agent. Let the two agents talk, and figure out what's going on. I can assure you, I guess I fully can't because I don't know,
right?
Agent per agent, buyer per buyer, seller per seller, but the buyer isn't playing any games, isn't,
no.
And same goes for the seller. It stuff does come up, and the most important thing is communication.
Right.
For a listing agent, if there's an issue with an appraiser, the buyer's lender can't help you. The buyer's agent can't help you.
Yeah, all I can do is type my little email. That's all I can do.
Right. But you, as the listing agent, you have access to their contact information. And again, the key word that continues to pop up in all of our podcasts is communication.
Yeah. Pick up the phone.
Correct.
Pick up the phone. It is the biggest thing. And if you talk it through, it makes the delay a little less painful.
Correct. Yeah. And I, as the listing agent, have had to call an appraiser before and ask questions about certain things. And it's honestly to talk to the appraiser, and as long as you're nice and professional, it goes really smooth, and you get the answers and the clarity that you need.
Yeah. Yeah. And coming from me, who we said before, I have a very high social anxiety when it comes to making phone calls. I don't like making phone calls. I get like the cold sweats, and my speech impediment gets worse because I can't say the words that are in my head. So, and even I say phone calls are best.
Correct.
And it's just one of those things where you can't hide behind your keyboard. You have to talk it out. But it's just important to know that things happen. Or even on the lending side, if the borrower gets hurt at work and they're out of work, the income we use to qualify you for your loan technically isn't there right now because you're not working. So we need to know when you're going to go back to work, or are you going to be able to go back to work? If you do go back to work, is it going to be the same income that you have right now? Like, is your injury going to cause you to not be able to do your job as you did before, where you have to take a step back or do whatever, so things can happen, or your car breaks down and you don't have any money to fix it. So you use your down payment to fix your car because you need your car. Then you don't got any, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of things that can happen that more often than not are not done by choice,
Correct.
Done on purpose. I can see how a buyer or a seller may think that there's games being played or things aren't being laid out because we do so much behind the scenes that isn't for everybody to, because that's not their responsibility to know that. It's our job to take most of it and figure it out and then all right, you're good to go, or hey, I need this document from you.
Yeah.
But we're not meant to here's my email chain, for the past 40 emails went back and forth with this person. It's not, you don't need to see that because it's not going to do anything. It's not going to, if anything, it's going to make it just worse.
Right.
It's going to make the situation worse for you because you're oh my God, what is that? What?
Exactly.
Because that's not their job to know that stuff, but I can see where they would think that. So it's trying to find the equal balance between, informing them, but also not overwhelming them.
Oh, absolutely. Because, I think, the same misconception about realtors, all they do is put a sign in the ground.
Yeah.
And that's it. Or they open a door and that's it. It's the easiest job out there. But they don't see everything behind that goes on behind scenes.
Right.
We're working with title, we're working with lenders, we're working with, through certain things, inspections, inspectors, and contractors and stuff. So there's stuff behind the scenes that sellers don't see. And same goes for buyer's agents, and we can say the same for lenders. I submit you a loan application and you just process it, and now you sit back until something pops up.
Right.
That's not the case.
Definitely not. Absolutely not. It's not. But again, that's, everybody has their profession and they do, everybody has their own role in it. But a lot of the things is just working through it, I think is the key thing. But knowing that things can come up, and if they do, it's never ideal. No one's ever happy about a delay. Even if
nobody.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. Even if not with buying a house, even if you're going on vacation and your flights are delayed, a delay. I mean, it's never ideal.
It's an inconvenience,
right?
But getting mad and yelling and stomping your feet isn't going to change anything.
And telling someone like, you can do that. You just want. I was like, no.
Right. We all have to. Because I just feel like lately everybody is so cranky and demanding.
Yeah, I don't know what changed, but this market, this summer market has been.
It's been a struggle. It really has. Yeah. It's been a struggle. But I just think everybody just needs to take a step back and put yourself in a situation that you've had where something's gone wrong or a delay has come, and think about, what happened on your end to cause it, and how do you want somebody else to react to that issue, and try to be that, because getting mad and yelling and, telling people they suck and whatnot, it doesn't make them want to work harder for you.
No.
Have you ever heard the old saying, the squeaky wheel gets the grease?
Yeah.
I think that's gone.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, because a squeaky wheel just gets ignored now.
Yeah.
I mean,
just turn the radio up. You can't hear it anymore.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah. I have a very good friend that did that. Yeah. Her car blew up on the side of the road.
Yeah. Maybe don't do that.
So yeah, I mean, think about that though. She heard this weird noise, turned up the volume and ignored it.
Yeah.
And it caused a bigger issue. So just everybody try to be nice in this.
Yeah.
Anywhere you go, getting mad isn't going to change the outcome. It's going to affect your mood, your attitude, and the stress is not good for you. I've been learning that. Mm-hmm. Just be patient and communicate. Pick up a phone. I am not a phone talker either.
Right.
Not because I have anxiety. I'm just not a phone talker.
Yeah.
But in certain situations, it gets stuff done so much faster.
Yeah.
Pick up the phone. Take a 5-minute phone call, a 10-minute phone call. Connect with the other side and see how you both can work together to get it done.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think the point of this was to just open out the communication, whatever you want to say, about what can cause things to have a hiccup. Because I mean, there's a lot of third party involved, and that's usually where, when there's a lot of moving parts, things could happen.
Well, and that goes along with the other old saying, too many chefs in the kitchen. Because these third party people are involved, I mean, they have to be there.
Right. We can't make them go away, unfortunately.
We can't make them go away, but think about when you have too many people in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Things get chaotic and, things get messed up. Somebody tells you do it this way or that way, just realize that other people are involved, and communication.
I feel like that's our topic for every single podcast.
Because it is. Because I feel like communication is gone.
Yeah.
I think I should get that on my forehead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you see all the people on TikTok or Instagram or all these, I was like, would you actually say that to somebody if you called them? Would you actually say that to them? Mm-hmm. Or are you just going to type it because you can hide behind your keyboard?
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? Would you actually call someone and tell them, oh, your eyebrows look like trash, or I can't believe you wore that outfit? You're not going to say that to them.
Some people would.
I mean, maybe, but
no, for 9 times out of 10, if you're sending nasty emails and you're not picking up the phone, that kind of says what kind of person you are. You're a keyboard warrior.
Yeah.
And hey, I'm just as guilty. There have been times that I have sent emails and somebody has called me and I'm like, shoot, that was really bad, because that's not who I am.
Right.
But obviously stronger behind a keyboard. So just pick up the phone and have a conversation. I mean, it's so much
because you can read however you want.
Yeah.
You can interpret words in any way that your imagination takes you. And that could be a good thing or a bad thing. You could be like, oh, everything is fine. No, they meant fine. You know what I mean? There's different tones with everything you say, and depending on what your mood is and you read it,
That's true. Your mood, because yeah, you know how like when you send text messages, because like if I'm texting back and forth with you,
Yeah.
like, hey, you want to go do this, you want to go do that, and I just respond with K, because sometimes that's what I do. You can take it as
Like, what's your problem?
wow.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I do think that's a good point. I never thought of that. Your mood dictates how you read a text or an email.
Mm-hmm.
I never know that.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Yeah, and it's true. If you think about it, the way that you read it is how you're feeling right now.
That is so true.
Yeah.
I
So
just learned
that's
something new
yeah.
today.
See, that's what we're here for. But I mean, and that's important to understand as well. So why conversations are usually better, because you can understand someone's mood by the way that they're talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Communicate, 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 and always remember.
I'm gonna put that right here on the wall.
Communicate.
We're gonna get a new sign.
Yes, we'll add it to it.
Yeah, we'll add it. Yeah.
But just always remember, a delay does not mean the deal is dead.
Right.
So
just means let's work together and figure it out and try to hold people accountable for where, you know, the delay is coming from, but understand that you can't control everything. I think is important to understand.
yeah.
I have a hard time with that reality.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like you, I'm a huge people pleaser,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I take stuff very personally, and I shouldn't.
No, it's no matter what you do in life, you shouldn't be that way. But and I get it, but it's one thing to have empathy, but then also be empathetic. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll work together. Let's just like in general, everybody's getting crabbier, and they want everything done now. You told me the closing date was this. Now you're telling me it's that. Like,
here's why.
Right. Ask why.
Right. Be like a 4-year-old. Why? Why? Why?
Are we almost there yet?
Right.
But
please don't do that.
yeah, you're still dealing with that.
Why?
Are we almost there?
Yeah.
But seriously, questions. Yeah. Ask why. I, as a seller's agent and a buyer's agent, am asking the questions constantly, like, but why? You know, and if you've got somebody on the other end that's good at communication and explaining and educating, they'll tell you. Mm-hmm. And then you can go back to your buyer or your seller and go, okay, here's what I found out. This is why. And it usually levels everything out.
Yeah. You never want the answer like, well, it is what it is. Like, yeah, but it isn't. Like, there's a reason behind everything. We just haven't found it yet. You know, like, oh, well, it is what it is. Like, okay, I get that. Mm-hmm. But why? Right. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to keep on asking the question until I get an answer. Mm-hmm. It may not be the answer that I want, but this is an answer.
It is an answer. Yeah. And I'm always the curious one, like, but why? Well, what led to that? Like, right. You know, and I go down this rabbit hole of, and then, you know, it's like, well, I really don't need to know that, but now I'm curious. Now I want to know.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, you know, that's it. Let's just all be understanding.
Yeah, and just know that what some of the key things are. I mean, there's obviously other things that can happen, but delay, some of the key things that we've seen that cause delays, just to be aware of them, not to scare you, but just so that you are aware. If we say, "Hey, we've got a problem," that you understand, like, okay, you know, you did warn me that this may happen. You know, so now it's not such a blow. You know, when that's delivered, like it's not going to happen every single time. I prefer it didn't happen at all, as I'm sure everybody else would, you know, but keeping that communication open and understanding that it can happen, I think it's going to be really important. Mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure.
And that's kind of what our podcast is for, is to help educate the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because unfortunately, there's a mixture of all three of those things.
Yeah, it seems like more ugly lately.
Yeah.
You know, but what I'm also finding is there's more delays lately. There's more stuff getting pushed back.
Either they're like overwhelmed, like they're too busy, or they just don't want to. I don't know. Or there's a shortage of people doing that specific job. I have no idea.
Yeah, and contractors are so busy, and it's so hard to get them into homes. You know,
this time of year.
Right, exactly. So, you know, just be prepared. You know, your closing date is an estimated closing date, essentially, you know, even though it is legally binding in a contract,
Right, but if you negotiate with the seller or the buyer, depending on where it's coming from, usually you can remain in compliance with the contract.
Yep, that's what
And
amendments are for.
And that's what the agents are for.
Yep. And just don't panic. Your agent will tell you when to panic.
Yeah.
So, and your lender will tell you to panic. We take on the stress. So you think everything's kosher, and then you get that delayed, and then you panic.
Yeah.
And that's no reason to panic. It's just a bump you have to get over.
Right.
Then that's it.
Which happens in life. I mean,
it happens in life all the time.
Yeah.
So, a delay is not a dead deal. It just means we have a hump that we need to get over, and we'll take care of it. And, I try to look at, great, this is a learning lesson. What am I learning here?
And most people learn a lot in their industry through lessons like that. Yes. Like when I went through my training and when you went through yours, our training is basically how not to go to jail.
Yeah.
Like mine was all about regulations and compliance and don't do these things, you're going to go to jail. And then it's all these like scary stories about, oh, this company got fined, $5 million. And so I went through 20 hours of how not to go to jail.
72 hours.
Yeah. I went through 0 hours on how to navigate every bump in the road.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times, and sometimes it is big, oh, I didn't know that. I messed up. Let's fix it. So owning up to your mistakes is also going to be, because again, we can make mistakes too. Like things get missed. It's going to happen. I'm sorry to break it to you, but it's going to happen, but the thing is that you find out the mistake, you learn from it, and then you fix it.
Correct.
Like it's not life or death. It usually is a pretty big deal, but a lot of the things I've learned in my career so far have all been through lessons.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know how they say, I made a mistake. I'm human. AI now puts mistakes can be made, double check, verify.
Yeah, I'm not a human or whatever. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, so AI is no longer taking responsibility for their actions. They're
like, yeah, no, we're even hands off.
Right. Yeah, this is not my problem. If it's wrong, not my problem. You need to fact check yourself.
I'm not human.
Right, I'm not a human. Yeah, but it is important to understand that sometimes it can happen from human error. Mm-hmm. You forgot to order a title on time. You forgot to get your insurance policy set up on time. You forgot to do it happens. You're a human. And then you just learn from those mistakes.
Life happens. If you've ever said that,
right?
Life happens. Welcome to real estate and lending. And pretty much any other job out there. Life happens. Stuff happens.
Yeah.
It's how you react. It's mainly just to educate you guys that delays happen, why the delays happen, the stuff that you don't see. So I hope it helps.
Yeah,
everybody understand.
If you've ever had a situation come up where a delay happened, you don't understand why. Put in the comments and we can help.
Yeah.
I can't tell you everything, but I can say according this is a law. It's a regular. This is a compliance thing. That's why you got a hard stop there. I can help explain why that may have happened. If you weren't explained that, during the process. Right.
And it can, be somewhat of a guess because, we don't know the whole scope of a deal. But just if you have a question that you have, that you've got a why that hasn't been answered, maybe we can help.
Yeah. Just let us know.
Yeah. Maybe we can learn something.
Yeah. See, again, learning through, or tell us what happened. And then we can learn do that.
Yeah. Note to self.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's it, right?
I think so. Well, thanks for joining.
Yeah. We'll see you next week.